Ilaria, which, again, is unaffected by trap effects and has a hard once per turn. If you activate a whole normal trap card, you can set it instead of sending it to the graveyard. Then during the end phase, you can special summon a Traptrix from your graveyard in defense position. And finally, 3 copies of Traptrix Sarah. This can be made with any non-link Traptrix monster. It's unaffected by trap effects, and you can only use each of its effects once per turn, and not during the damage step, notably. If a normal trap is activated, you can special summon a Traptrix monster from your deck with a different name than the cards you control. And if your other Traptrix monster's effect is activated, you can set a whole normal trap directly from the deck. In the side, we've got 3 Cosmic Cyclone, 2 different dimension ground, a Trap Trick, 3 Winged Dragon of Raw Sphere Mode, 3 Solemn Judgment, and 3 Lava Golem. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Scareclaw. Oh, Scareclaw, the red-headed stepchild of the Vsauce lore. Sorry you weren't good. We're going first. I'm just going to show you what this deck can accomplish when it's allowed to resolve Sarah a couple of times.
Still a really bad hand.
Sarah and then activate the effect of the Exceed in hand, summoning an Exceed from deck. They're going to DD Crow or Boudica. That's fine. Afterwards, we're going to overlay for the new rank 4. We're going to activate the effect that's going to grab from deck to hand a Mirror Mellow. We will get an additional normal off of this copy of Orchard. We'll activate the Orchard and then get another normal. Since we activated the effect of a Traptrix monster, our Sarah has also triggered, netting us a Holatia. We're going to pitch a Holatia that we searched off Mirror Mellow to do that, and then we'll trigger the effect of the Sarah as well in order to end on an Arachno Campa, protecting us from a Lightning Storm. We'll set 2 and pass back to our opponent. We'll redo her in standby, and all 3 card types. Oh, you shouldn't have. They're going to begin with a Reichardt. Perfect. That summon is going to allow us to floodgate Trap Bullet, and then a resolution we can trigger the effect of Sarah in order to summon a Mirror Mellow from deck. That Mirror Mellow will trigger. Say goodbye to your primitive Reich phobia. Afterwards, we'll trigger the effect of the Sarah for a Delusion. Our opponent's going to go for a Fractal. We'll activate Gravedigger's Trap Hole, and they're going to concede. Our second match is up against Kashtira, and I guess we're doing every single Vsauce universe this time. Huh. Well, if you're unfamiliar with this deck, now is the perfect time to get familiar with it because you are going to see it a lot. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Pot of Prosperity, banishing, among other things, and then finish tracking Goliath from their extra deck face down. They got to find something crazy here, and unfortunately they do. There is a copy of Fenrir. They're going to activate the effect of the Fenrir to get a Riseheart, not to be confused with the Riseheart, who you'll see later. Afterwards, we're going to Papayas out a Unicorn, then get a copy of Birth. We'll go for Shangri-Ira, then activate Birth, special summon that Riseheart, and then afterwards activate the effect of the Riseheart, banishing Scareclaw. That doesn't sound right. I thought you were supposed to put a trap there. They're going to go for Birth to bring back the Scareclaw to look pretty, I suppose. They'll go into a copy of a Riseheart, set 2 and pass, and then activate the effect of their Shangri-Ira in standby. Let's just go directly to battle here. They're going to keep their copy of a Riseheart, and it's not hard to see why. Because cards are being banished face down, they can equip that and finish at Goliath, giving it protection, but also because we're going to banish cards face down with Pot of Prosperity, it is going to be online, which means they're going to be able to banish a card on the field face down at quick speed. They're going to take one of our cards, we're going to normal summon a Mantis, and then activate the effect. Afterwards, they're going to activate a Riseheart in order to banish our monster face down, but sorry, we have an extender. Oh, thank goodness that this deck has special summons now. Now, they do get to keep attaching, but that is a once per turn, so we will be free to resolve our effect of Sarah, provided our opponent doesn't have exactly Ash Blossom. Okay, Brigadine does okay work, but we're going to have to rely on the Traptrix Trap Holes, it looks like. We're going to set 2 and pass back to our opponent. They draw a Papayas off the top. That's literally the best card in their deck still remaining. We'll go for a Unicorn, then activate the effect of a Riseheart. Afterwards, we can thankfully floodgate Trap Hole here, preventing them from plussing even further, but they do get the Riseheart back. Afterwards, we're going to go for a Riseheart. We're going to go for the effect of Sarah to get a Boudica, and the Boudica is going to trade for the Riseheart, but force our opponent to get rid of our Holatia. After resolution here, we're going to be able to activate the effect of Sarah to get a copy of Delusion. They're going to normal Riseheart, but that doesn't do anything from this position. They'll banish a couple of cards from our deck, attack with the Sarah, but any of these could be a Sarah. We'll draw for turn, and this should be the end of the game. We're going to go ahead and make a copy of Time Thief Redoer and activate the effect. That's going to tuck that copy of Riseheart. Then afterwards, we're going to go for Vessi, and then overlay for the Ping. Ping is just so unbelievably powerful in simplified board states. We're going to have our opponent's Unicorn, pass back to them. We know what their draw is going to be, and it's unremarkable. In standby, we will get the last remaining trap in the deck. That's unbelievable. We'll go ahead and activate it, spin that card back to the top of the deck, draw for turn, go to standby, go to main, and just walk in for lethal. Woof. What a slobber knocker, but we came out on top. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on what else? A Shizu Tearlament, but it is post-Photon Hypernova, so they're also playing Tearlament Kashtira. God willing, this deck will never exist in paper. We're going first, so let's see what we can accomplish. This evenly matched may look like a brick, but it's actually the perfect card to pitch to our Holatia. We're going to go for the effect of Prosperity here and find off the top. Oh god, these Prospies are actually really hard. I guess we'll go for the Exceed. We'll go Sarah here, which allows us to commit to an Exceed, and because our hand includes a special as well, we can go for an Abyss Dweller as part of this end board. We're going to go for the Holatia. We'll special it, pitching this copy of Evenly Matched that will accomplish nothing. That'll trigger Sarah and allow us to get a Murmello. That'll trigger the effect effect of the Sarah, because even though our opponent controls nothing, that is a mandatory activation. We'll go Ping, activate the effect of Ping to get a Murmello for next turn, set Delusion, and pass back to our opponent. Feeling pretty good about this. They're going to go for Sheeran. We will chain Abyss Dweller. Unfortunately, they really did hold that infib for the perfect time. That's going to negate our Abyss Dweller, and they will mill a bunch of cards, including a Merly and a Scream. Now, that's going to trigger our Ping and our Sarah in sequence, so we can get a Pudica and then equip the monster that would have to be used as part of the fusion. So as a result, they aren't going to be able to resolve the effect of their Merly. We get a Floodgate Trap Hole set as well. They're going to go for a Pellerino and then normal summon the Rhino Heart that they search. That Rhino Heart is going to send a name they have not used, but we do have a Gravedigger set, so we will be able to dome them for 2k. Afterwards, they're going to go for Tearlament Cashier. We just need a little bit of a whiff, and okay, we're going to go for Delusion here, targeting the Tearlament Kashtira. They're going to chain one of the Shufflers, but we can chain Holatia in order to summon back the Murmello. Unfortunately, this doesn't trade super profitably with Field Spell because the Murmello is a mandatory effect and the Pellerino is an optional. They are going to be able to eat our monster, but no big deal. Cards like Sarah are so low investment that it doesn't matter if they go to the grave. In fact, here's one right now. We'll go for Arachno Pampa right here, and then trigger the effect of the Sarah as well in order to get another Holatia. Then we're going to go for a Rafflesia. This might seem weird, but we are going for a lethal push here. We're going to go Sarah effect off the Holatia activation. We'll go for Dianea to reset this copy of Gravediggers. Remember, our opponent is lower in life points simply because they took the 2k. They're going to go for the Suliek on the Abyss Dweller, but that's too late. We're going to go for the Murmello in order to grab another copy of Holatia and make Adipus. That is going to increase the attack of every one of our Trap Tricks monsters and get in for lethal. So it's time for game 2, and okay, this is exactly where we want to be on the draw. We have an Infinite Impermanence for the Kid Kolos. We have an evenly matched if things get out of hand. They're going to go Rhino Heart into a Sheeran. They'll activate Sheeran's effect to make the Kid Kolos. We'll deploy the Infinite Impermanence, and unfortunately, Triple Pack doesn't interact with this in a particularly positive way. They're going to pass. We should be able to wrap this up. We'll draw for turn. We're going to go for the Pot Prosperity, finding off the top. Don't need one of those. Or one of those. Oh, I could take one of those. All right, we're going to go for the Arachno. We're going to normal summon this copy of Pudica, and okay, put your faith in the Havness. Let's see it. You're kidding me. Merly, Scream, Hellbeck. Well, sometimes you just want it more. They're going to mill 5 and then resolve the effect of the Merly to go into a second copy of Kid Kolos. Not too beat up about this one. This is going to become way more common as Kashtira becomes more popular. They're going to go for a Rhino Heart at Resolution, and they haven't activated the effect of the Rhino Heart or the Sheeran this turn. We are going through every name. Oh my goodness. They're going to go for Kaleido Heart, spinning back our normal summon, and, well, I guess we got a good evenly matched out of it anyway. We're going to go ahead and put them down to exactly Kaleido Heart. We're going to activate Orchard. We're going to normal summon a Mantis. We'll activate the effect of the Mantis for a Murmello and go into Sarah. That allows us to go into Parallel Exceed. Parallel Exceed is going to summon a Parallel Exceed from deck. Then afterwards, we can activate the effect of the Holatia in Graveyard. That's going to force out proactively this copy of Mudora. No big deal. We can still bring back this copy of Arachno, and we'll go into an Abyss Dweller, summon another Arachno, and, of course, trigger the effect of the Sarah, ending on Ping. I feel pretty good about this one. We'll activate the effect of the Ping in order to grab an Arachno, pass back to our opponent, and hope for the best. They draw for turn. We do get the Abyss Dweller off, which is sick. They're going to go for Keldo here. They're going to summon the Keldo and get themselves a copy of Kelbeck. They're going to normal summon the Kelbeck. That prompts the Floodgate. That prompts the Sarah, and unfortunately, we are in main phase. We'll go Pudica here in order to banish this copy of Kaleido Heart, then we'll tuck it under the Ping and set a copy of Gravekeepers as well. They're going to take one of our monsters, hear the Ping, and then go to battle, and oh, this is the most profitable Zeus in the history of time. They're going to go Zeus, wipe our board, and get their Kaleido back into rotation. We'll draw for turn, and yeah, this should be it. Rhino Heart triggers because they are still permitted to special summon, even if it's not the monster that we banished. Well, let's just go next. So it's time for the all-important Game 3, and yeah, I mean, this hand is perfect. No notes. We're going to begin with a copy of Pot of Prosperity, finding off the top. Okay, that'll do it. Wow, we have been really lucky finding Exceed off of Prosperity these games. We're going to go ahead and activate Orchard and then use our extra normal on this copy of Arachno. We're going to go into a Sarah, trigger the effect of the Exceed. That Exceed is going to summon from deck another Exceed, at which point we can overlay for a copy of Ping. We'll trigger the effect of the Ping in order to grab a Murmello. Afterwards, we'll trigger the effect of the Sarah in order to set
I should have waited for...
We'll go for a Shade Brigandine, summon it, then trigger Sarah again in order to summon an Arachno. Normal summon this Murmello, get another Trap Hole from deck, overlay for a Redoer with a trap under it, set 2, and this is like the best hand you could possibly craft for the deck. Unfortunately, Redoer in standby turns on our opponent's triple tactic tasking, and you will now experience the pain of getting even lead here. We get to recoup a little bit of the loss with Sarah, but unfortunately it is a cold comfort in a hand with this many extenders. This deck has a really big weakness to evenly matched specifically. That's not too big of a deal if you have to hard draw it, but now that tasking is around, cards like Redoer are going to give our opponent a lot of wiggle room. We unfortunately can't do anything to the Paguska. They're going to switch it to attack position, get over Sarah, and make Zeus. They're going to normal summon a Rhino Heart, trigger the effect of the Zeus in sequence. They can send the Tearlament Kashtira from hand to reborn the Rhino Heart alongside this Havness. That's going to allow them to go into a Kit Kolos, then a Resolution. They can activate the effect of the Tier Limit Tashtira to mill, and this copy of Tier Limit Kit Kolos, and this copy of Tier Limit Scream, and we are on literally nothing. They're going to go for Kit Kolos here using a modified version of the Yoinky Spelunky in order to mill as many as possible. That Murley going to the graveyard is going to be good enough, I imagine. That'll make a Rukolos. The Sheeran is going to trigger here as well. We do have the material to make a Kaleido Heart. They'll set 2 and pass. I don't know what it would have to be. It would have to be Giga evenly matched. They'll go for Rukolos as we attempt to activate Holatia. I guess we can go for Vessi here. They're going to go for Mudora. That's going to, unfortunately, blank that. And then Resolution, I figure we might as well scoop it up. So we're back with the deck, and oh boy, do I hope that this deck isn't playable. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, this deck has a variety of interaction styles. Floodgate, Gravediggers, Delusion, and they are especially effective after Hypernova, during which time decks are going to become a lot more flexible. 2, we're a shifter deck! Hooray! And 3, this deck has easy access to the Silver Bullet rank 4s alongside its main combo. Things like Laguska and Dweller pretty much clear the entire format. And the cons. 1, going second is still rough. 6 Bardishes is helpful, but it's not sufficient. 2, it's hard. There are so many minute interactions, and Prosperity Banishes are really tight. And 3, it is weak to evenly matched. This is really bad news, since evenly is extremely playable right now. All in all, you might get some weird looks, but this is definitely a deck worth considering for the upcoming format. So you better start practicing your excuses now. Thanks so much for watching. A big shout out to all of my patrons, but specifically Elena Kincher, Alex Dominguez, Alex Correa, Allison Elliott, Evie Poison, Big Game Home Video, Brett Henry, Chaotic Meatball, Crispy, Daniel Liu, Thank Magician of Chaos, TJ Elephant, Cody Down Swinging, Grant Curry, Indiana Petra, John Piet, Jordan Kuntz, King Magic Ruler, Nightmare, Lilypod, Lockstone, Materiality, MBT Play Madolce, Megalithus Fake Goth, Mike Carlotti, NH6574, Rose Latin, Sarah Rutledge, Solar Flare, Tolarian 101, Troy Says Fire Erasure is Gay, Wave Motion Ganon, and Wonder Waffle. I couldn't have done it without you.
he really should be crying because his advice is bad and his deck list is bad.
Jeez.
Hello, mathematicians, and today I found some of the worst advice ever on the forums of Reddit, Master Duel Meta, and Facebook. Oh my gosh, well, let's go through the low-hanging fruit. By the way, you should never really take advice from the boomers on Facebook. I know I'm a boomer myself, but on Facebook you get some of the weirdest stuff. Look at this. Pot of Extravagance gets Ash. Can I upstart Goblin after? Look at this horrible advice. They're talking about whether or not you can Ash or use upstart after the Extravagance. By the way, it doesn't matter if you can or can't, because you shouldn't be playing those two together anyways. That's to get to the crux of the argument, right? By the way, you could use upstart Goblin after you Ash anyways, and one of the guys had the answer, but that shouldn't matter. You don't play them together anyways. These two guys go together like orange juice and cereal, like orange juice and toothpaste. You know what I'm saying? They don't go together, because look at this. Extravagance, you got to use the start of your main phase. It's got to be the first thing you do. Banish 3 to 6 cards from your extra deck face down, and then for every 3 you banish, you get to draw a card. For the rest of the turn, though, you can't draw any more cards by card effects. What that means is if you have these 2 cards together and you use Extravagance first, right, because you have to do it's the first thing you have to do, well, now you can't use your upstarts. If you draw into an upstart, or if you had an upstart in your hand, it's turned off, so that's whack. And let's say now you don't have Extravagance in your hand, but you use upstart Goblin, and then you draw into a Pot of Extravagance. Well, now you can't use Pot of Extravagance because it's not the start of the main phase 1. So it's oil and vinegar, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't go together at all. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like going to a carnival when you're like 55 years old riding on the rides. Like, no, it doesn't go together like that, just by yourself. Like, it looks kind of weird. So yeah, don't do that. Anyways, what's something that also is interesting here with Pot of Extravagance is I saw this guy doing something weird. This guy reached dual level max. So this guy, you know, kind of should know what he's doing here. He reached the max, dual level max on the 16th, Red the Weeb. Well, the first thing I noticed here is this deck is really interesting. Why are you playing so many vanillas here? I can understand the 2 vanillas and the red eyes because you're playing these red eyes tech cards, with some of them will grab one or needs to discard one to go off in effect. So that I can understand, but you don't need to play 2 Dark Magicians. It's like running 2 drivers when you're running the Psyframe Gamma package. Yeah, it's kind of whack to have the driver in your hand, but the cards, the Red Eyes Fusion, can activate and just throw the Dark Magician to the graveyard anyways. So that's an additional Dark Magician you don't need to add. That thing can get cut, right? Similarly, he's doing the Extravagance thing, what we saw with the Pot of Extravagance and Upstart, because this Sky Striker card has the ability to, if you use it, it will draw you a card if you have 3 other spells in the graveyard. Well, again, it's the same conundrum. If you use a Pot of Extravagance, you won't be able to draw with your Sky Striker card, and then if you use the Sky Striker card and draw into the Pot of Extravagance, well, it's a dead card because it's not the start of the main phase 1. So again, they conflict with each other, right? They're just bouncing off each other. Why would you do that? And speaking of Extravagance here, he makes one more mistake Extravagance, and that's this extra deck. Look at this. He's got a necessary one of that he has to run. He's running 2 of these, and the deck seems to revolve around this card. He's running 3 of them. Well, take a look at this. You're going to need to see this. Pot of Extravagance here. This is the odds to banish the extra deck monsters from your deck with the Pot of Extravagance. Here, let's just remove that so we can see here. You can see here, you could choose to either banish 3 or 6. 99% of the time, you're always going to want to banish 6 unless you're like running out of extra deck space. Then you're only going to banish 3. You can go 1 for 1. But you always want to go with the +1, so you do that. So this guy's deck here has a 40% chance to banish his one-ofs. That means his necessary Predaplant Anaconda. Remember, this whole deck revolved around Dragoon. He needed to get 2 monsters on the field so he can go into Predaplant Anaconda so he can banish that Red Eyes Fusion. He's got a 40% chance that he banishes it because it's at 1. So that's deadly. And also his Typhoon is a 1 of there too. His 2 ofs that he's running of, his Kagaris, remember he was one of those striker engines. He's got about a 14% chance to banish those. So that's deadly too. He's going to banish all of his copies. You're running it at 2. You have a 14% chance to banish your 2 copies when you choose to banish 6. And then, not really much to worry about, but it's still going to happen about 4.4% of the time. You're going to banish all 3 copies of your Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and that's deadly because if you choose to banish 6, what that means, out of 100 times you do that Pot of Extravagance, you're pretty much auto-lost in 4 of your games, because that's what this guy's whole deck revolve around. And he's still got it to Duel Links Max, but, you know, it just goes to show that this is a pretty powerful card if you can get it out. But remember, this guy's got a lot of work to do to make his deck better. So real quick, some extract ticks right there, right here is don't extract your necessary one-ofs, right? If there's a necessary one-of, I don't recommend using extract. 40% risk is too high. And it's not really worth banishing 3. Always choose 6 unless you really have to. And then don't play other draw cards. This should go without explanation. Now, here's a really interesting toxic deck, right? You know, like the Crush Card Virus. It's these stun guys that do these deadly things. Anyways, look at this guy. This guy reached Master 1 on March 16th. Cry Havoc's his name. Well, he really should be crying because his advice is bad and his deck list is bad. It actually could be a lot better. Let's take a look at what is wrong with it. The first thing that I see here with the deck list, right, and I'm going to show it right here, is he's playing Time Tearing Morganite and he's playing some hand traps, right? I saw a shifter there, some other stuff. So what's interesting is, right, if let's say he goes first and he plays Time Tearing Morganite, if he had Maxi in his hand, he can't use it the following turn because for the rest of the duel, you cannot activate monster effects in the hand. So he would have to just Maxi turn 1 and then use his Time Tearing Morganite. So that's kind of weird. So they kind of conflict here. It does kind of work the other way around at least. Well, maybe not even, because let's say he gets to go second, right? And he uses Maxi and then draws into a Time Tearing Morganite. That's kind of a dead card going second because you really want that to be a board breaker or you really want that to be a hand trap or something that could help you. So just being a Time Tearing Morganite is kind of a dead card in that scenario, so a waste of a card. So that's an interesting confliction there. His hand traps are dead. The next thing is interesting here is he's got a cool lock going on with this Thunder King Ryo he was running. All right, that's cool. Neither player adds cards from their deck to their hand, okay, except by drawing them. And if your opponent would special summon 1 monster, you could send this card to the graveyard, negate the special summon. That's pretty cool, except for the fact that he won't be able to send it to the graveyard if he uses any of these cards, right? If any of these cards are face up on the field, now all he has is the lock effect going on, and he can't do the second effect to stop the special summon. So these cards, he's blocking his own cards. Again, it's conflicting. Why are you doing that? That's not good. If you really wanted to do something like that, I'd just play this card instead, Deck Lockdown. Not only does it prevent people from adding the cards from the deck to the hand except by drawing them, you get to keep your normal summon too, by the way, so you can use your other monsters. It also has an additional effect where monsters can't be special summoned from the main deck. That's pretty cool too. You do have to destroy this card during your second standby phase after activation, but there's cards that can prevent this card from being destroyed. You can use that, like there's some really interesting cards, but I don't want to help out the stun players. I have a very spicy tech. But the third thing you could do is, this is interesting here. He says this: I regularly lose 75% of coin tosses, so the deck is adjusted accordingly. Quarter of the dock is going second card. So this guy must believe in astrology or something, because he's like, oh, I lose the coin test 75% of the times, so I'm going to use a couple of Ring Dragon of Ra's fear modes here, right? So that doesn't make sense mathematically, so again, he must believe in like the horoscopes. But what's interesting is if you use fear mode, that it costs your normal summon. It can't be special summons, so it uses your normal summon to get rid of 3 tributes on the other side of the field. That means that now if you had your Fossil Dyna or Inspector Border, you can't use them. You would have needed that like Time Tearing Morganite to be in your hand or something, and that's too risky to risk. So your Sphere mode is actively preventing you from using these cards. Again, you're conflicting. Everything in your deck is a big contradiction. Not really worth doing. The extra deck is okay, he said. Sadly, Azamina never came up during decline because Fear Mode was glued to his hand. Again, so if Fear Mode was glued to your hand, as this guy from the astrology believes, then you don't want to be playing these cards, or if you are playing these cards, you want to do maybe a different, like a board breaker, like a Kaiju or something, Metal Tronus, I don't know, Ultimate Slayer, something different. Especially because your extra deck looked like this. He was playing Super Polymerization, which I think is a great card for him. He's got a good Super Polymerization extra deck, so almost all of these can go there. So I'm not going to be complaining about the extra deck at all. It'd be great. I think you should play Ultimate Slayer and get some advantage that way, maybe instead of this Fear Mode, because you can't do something anyways if you want to play these go second cards. But I really think Stun wants to go first anyways. I don't know. Just the whole deck was a living, breathing contradiction. Here's a tale right here. This guy 2 hours ago on Master Duel says, man, he got a really bad losing streak. Anyone else just having a bad day? How do you cope? And he shared his deck list. He's had 2 deck lists. He was running a branded deck list and a math mech deck list. His branded deck list was actually really good, so I think the problem is it must be how he's doing his lines. So I have no improvements there. But his math mech deck list can use a little bit of help. Let's take a look at this. What's he doing wrong here? Well, you could see here the first thing that he's doing is he's only playing 2 of his main combo pieces here. He's playing 2 sign-up mining and 2 circular. The Math Mech deck is all about getting that circular. If you're only playing 2 circular, 2 sign-up mining, and then 2 small world, that gives him about roughly a 57.71% chance to resolve circular in his hand. Granted, he could find circular in other ways. That's by getting like 2 level 4s on the field and extending through the Math Mech XZ's monster. But if you would just add an additional Math Mech Circular and an additional Signet Mining, right? Add one of those each, bring them each to 3. That brings his odds up to a better chance, 69% chance now, if you include just adding 1 more of these, right? Really, really good. And even more if he wants to add 1 more of the small world, but 69% chance if he just adds 1 more of those, and that's a lot. That's a 12% increase just by doing that. And that's still, you still have the option to get circular through your level 4 packages this way. You just got to maybe cut something, do a little bit of stuff there, but I recommend doing that. What I really do love here is that he's not playing a single playset of 3, and I think that's really good because that's guaranteed giving you a unique hand. So like pretty much every time. So I think what's going on here is you're just maybe doing the lines a little wrong. And something else I see here is your extra deck here. A really good extra deck. I think we could just use 1 improvement. Sorry that's how it's a little blurry here, but that's how the website looks when I cut it and made it good. You're missing Cyber's Deceive Worm. I think that's a great card to add with your Math Mech package. You're already playing this card here. Maybe you're running a little bit low on UR points or something, and maybe that's why he wasn't in here. But this card, what he does is, on your turn, you send this card to the graveyard, right? Your Deceive Worm. So that means on your opponent's turn, when your opponent activates a spell, trap card, or effect, while you control a level 4 or higher Cybers, which he is, you get to banish this card and negate that activation. So now you can stop a spell or trap, right? This guy is allowed to, right? You could send 1 quick effect. You could send a Cybers monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. So that's pretty good. That's a quick effect. And if you do, he gets some like other stuff. Attribute bonuses, some nice fun stuff. And also, just going back real quick, I want to see his extra deck. He's playing the Meteorologic Aggregator, which is a good card to use on your opponent's turn to negate a monster effect. So this will negate your opponent's spell and trap cards, and the Aggregator will negate the monster effects. So maybe you're running low on UR points, but that's a good improvement that I think that you could do there. Real quick, if you like this kind of stuff, this math and like just going over stuff like this, I have a lot of videos on math and other stuff. Just give this video a little subscribe, you know, come join the Discord. We like to do a little bit of deck doctoring in there too. Show your deck, we'll improve it. Or if you already did all that stuff, just give it a like. It helps me out a lot. So I love you guys for doing that. You guys are all great. And then come check me out on Twitch. By the way, let's look at myself and my own contradictions. You know, I got to bite my own apple and make my own mistakes. I'm doing really good here. Let's just cover up that loss. I'm like cruising through the Duelist Cup right now. I have the good 18 win streak. This is my deck I'm currently running, but I also want to show some of the contradictions I'm running. I'm a bit of a hypocrite myself. I like to scrutinize what I'm doing. Here I'm running, of course, 2 Maxis and 2 Drolls. I think they're very popular, but a lot of times they conflict with each other too. I'm doing it because I think that they need to, you know, they're both turn enders, and I think they're really good. Sometimes I'll